You're tuned in to a Georgian College podcast, brought to you by the School of Computer Studies.
Alright, so in this screencast, which should be the final one for part 1, practical 2, and I'll create more screencasts for part 2 and part 3 of this assignment. Anyway, so what we have here is how to draw letters onto canvas. Okay, so you notice on the screen right now there's an H, G, and an I, and you notice there's crosshairs. So when you draw a letter, you have to specify a location or an XY. Well, to specify that for a letter, you specify the bottom left corner of an imaginary box where the letter will basically sit in. All right, so that's what that crosshair represents, is the bottom left corner. But notice that the letter itself doesn't sit right at that corner. It's offset a tiny bit away from that, and that's going to be different for for every letter, and also well for the font. So essentially, what you do with letters is you kind of play around a bit. If you're trying to be exactly, putting it exactly where you want it to be, you have to play with your X and Y until you're happy with it, and then away you go. But now the X and Y, again, the nice thing about programming is you can give it a try. Especially if you're at this stage, you're just it's just an assignment, you're experimenting. You can give it a try. I mean, this is the idea of programming, is to try things out. So it doesn't work at 100 and 100 comma say 50, but it might work at 103 comma 50 or 104 comma 50. Don't be afraid to try something out. It doesn't work, try a different number, and eventually you get to a place where you're tweaking. Eventually you get to an X and Y that is exactly where you want it to be. All right, so I'll go through the JavaScript for this particular example, and then I'm going to add my G in my in my logo. All right, so here's the JavaScript, and it's going to make that bigger so you can see the code there. So here are my variables. Again, I have some colors. All right, but now this time I've also declared some other variables, and these variables specify fonts. All right, so my first variable I called hero font 1. Notice what's in the string. Okay, so bold, you have to specify whether it's bold or normal. I believe you can put italics as there as well. Then the size. So you can notice I got 120. This is the one for the H. Sorry, that's for the G. Then the H is 72 and the I is 200. So you'll notice that essentially it's a relative. Obviously 200 is bigger than 120, and again you want to play with that value and to get a value that you're happy with. Now the next thing is the font name. So here I've used Helvetica for the first two fonts. Helvetica is a very common font that is used on computers. So what you want to do is you want to pick a particular font that essentially exists in all computers if you want it to look the same everywhere. If you specify a font that, say, my computer doesn't know and I view it, my computer will substitute a font. Now there's a way to be able to download a font straight from the web, and we'll talk about that on another screencast. The other thing you can put is serif. Serif is generally, for most computers, is Times Roman. So there's sans serif, which doesn't have feet, and serif, which basically fonts that have feet. So you'll notice that in the letter I, that's what has little feet. So here we go. I'll show you letter I. All right, see the I there, and there's the H and the G. Okay. All right, so that's setting up the font. So for the letter G, I specified a line width of 1. This is going to be the outside, the stroke of the letter. And then I begin a path. Oh, sorry. This is the crosshair. That's the crosshair. So there's the letter G. I should change my comment. There's the letter G. So what did? I did a fill style of yellow. I want it to be yellow. I want the line width, the outline of the letter to be 2. I'm using Hero Font 1 that I specified. And this is the colored in G, the filled G. Notice the letter G specified. And then the XY, the bottom left corner of where it's going to sit. And then I have, then I stroked it, so I put an outline around the G. All right. Here's the H. I changed it to so it's dark red. Okay, I'm using font 2. Notice in this case I didn't stroke the text. Right, so it just filled. And same with the I. All right. Well, I want the one that I need is the G, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this code because it's going to be very similar to what I want. I think it's exactly where I need it to be as well because I worked it out before. And I'm going to place it right there in the middle of that. All right, so I'm going to go into my code. Here's the code that I'm looking at. And I'm going to paste it. All right. And I think that's pretty much where it should be, so I'm going to save that. And okay, so I have to go back and check. All right, so what went wrong? Well, I just remembered I didn't specify Hero Font 1 here, so I'm going to go to my variables there, and I'm going to borrow that Hero Font 1 line right here. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste it right there. Let's see if that's all that was missing. Go back to here and reload. And so, as you notice, you know what, it's a bit too big. I think I had it at 120. Probably should be at 72 from what I remember. So, try that. And reload, and there it is. It's perfectly right in the middle. I had my numbers right, but let's just imagine that you know, I didn't have it quite right, and I guessed that it was be at 160. So 160 on the X. So don't forget to do the 160. 60 on the X. All right, and we're gonna reload. So notice it's nudged up, you know. And maybe that's where I want it to be, but anyway, I did want it centered, and after playing around I kind of decided that it was 171 is where I needed it to be. Alright, so save that again and reload, and there we have it. My logo is done. Alright, so you know, that's pretty much all you need really to complete the logo assignment, and so will be more screencasts in a little while.